Hello, this is Nick, and this is the FLYWOO Explorer LR, a 4-inch long range, obviously LR in the name, inspired by Dave CFPV, I think his name is. It's written right now on it here. His design for the frame. This particular one's made by FLYWOO. So I have a problem. Mine came without a receiver because it was all that was available, which was fine. I had my own FRSKY XM plus receivers with dual antennas. See them there? I didn't have them in there. I had these in there, so you see they're fully extended out, just out into the tips. No problem. And the problem is I was still getting RXloss. Insert video here if I could find it. So the issue is it's going to be receivers. So we're going to be switching out for this XF Nano. That's a TBS Crossfire. And that will give me significant just lower range. Something that this an Explorer like this needs on a battery like this, a TBS Graphene 650. You get about 6 to 8 minutes. That keeps it under 250 grams with a Insta360 camera mounted, keeping it underneath the 250 gram limit. You can put larger batteries on it, including 4 18650s, as long as they can handle the current, and get flight times of upwards over 30 minutes, I've seen some people say. Anyways, we need to dive in and get this current receiver out of there. I'm not even going to diagnose it, I'm just going to put a big tag on it saying questionable receiver and test it some other day. Because I had line of sight and I was a few hundred feet up, or maybe 100 feet up, line of sight, and only a couple hundred meters away, and it started RXloss. And imagine when you turn it, when you have a drone like this and you're flying away from you, you got some pretty good signal. When you turn it around and you're coming back, you got the battery on top getting in the way of the signal. So I mean, that doesn't help. So you'll notice that you may have good signal going out but bad coming back. That's why on most drones I actually prefer to do what they do with this drone originally, is if the Crossfire is on here, they actually mount it up front, which I'm totally going to do the same thing. That way when I'm flying away I get decent signal because I can see it from the bottom, and when I have to turn around I still get great signal because it's still it's on the front of the drone facing. So I think that's a great spot for it. Some people say all sorts of stuff about keeping it away from carbon fiber, keeping it away from ESCs, keeping away from this and that. I don't know. This is my first whack at it. I got this Micro TX2 kit. It came with the transmitter module and the 3 transmitters with both the what do they call them, L-tails, these guys, whip tails. There's 2 little whips on it, more for like a racing drone. Guess it could handle some more damage, bang around more. I already looked at this thing and it looks like it's gonna be perfect because it'll mount there. We'll zip tie it in there. Be a little hard to get zip tie in there. And this little guy is gonna run underneath. I think I'll pop it right up in here. all the way underneath that. So you know what? I'm gonna keep it away from the ESC. I'm gonna pop it in, up and over. I'm not sure if you can see. I'll show the GoPro. Up and over the whole flight controller, and then we'll go in that way. Problem number 2 is, again, new to TBS Crossfire micros. Obviously we have 4 cables on these ones. That's because it has 2-way telemetry. Obviously red, black. I soldered these on, but just follow the pattern. I'm not going to teach you how to solder. You can find those videos on your own, and I'm sure they're way better than me. And if you want to criticize my solders, you go right ahead. As far as I can tell, I am not the best at soldering, but I do use flux, and I do clean my tip, and I try to use good tools. And most importantly, I always pull on my solder joints, and I know what a bad solder joint looks like. And always looks for cracks. I've seen cracks on ESC solder joints, and the things still fly, just because they're like hooked through the bottom of the hole. Anyways, I digress. So I had to figure out how to wire this in. I know it just goes into the yellow would normally go into a receive. So wherever the yellow is going to now will be a transmit for the same one, and we'll send the yellow or the white one to that. I'm assuming that's exactly how it works, if I can remember correctly. So what I'm talking about here is it has 5 outputs. Ground, which is black, red is 5 volt, blue is an inverted RX, and yellow is RX, and the white is a transmit coming from the light controller. That inverted RX is used with some receivers, and not with the Crossfire. So I would noted here that the colors actually match perfectly up, which makes sense because they do make this model with this exact receiver in it. So. Alright, hopefully this audio works. I probably will be going back between the GoPro mic and this mic for this, as in going between the drone and the computer. The drone is currently plugged into the computer. I have gone ahead, for sake of saving us all time, and configuration I used matching the colors up with the Crossfire colors did actually work. So the white with the white and the yellow with the yellow, that worked just fine. So we went through the binding process. That only needs really power, really, because that's just binding to the receiver, to the radio, right? And beyond that, it doesn't really know, other than telemetry, if it's connected to a flight controller that's turned on or not. You do have to come in here and log in. Or not log in, but connect to your drone. Normally you plug this in. The biggest issue that I have personally had and see people have over and over is bad cables. It actually took me 3 cables to find one that works for this one. And it's not that one works for one drone and not the other. It's the quality of the cable. It's the length of the cable. Get a good quality short cable, and not a cable that's just meant to handle power. I'm actually using the cable that came with my DJI Mavic Air. And it transfers data. It's meant to transfer data, so it works just fine. Anyways, the other 2 didn't work. Once they work, you should have this pop up. If it doesn't work, read this stuff. All the information you need to know is all here. If you need a walkthrough of that, again, ask me in the comments. We'll leave it as like a ask me anything, and I'll follow up with a short video or a replying comment. And just connect to the drone. Every time I connect to my drone, I put on a flat surface, and I always calibrate the accelerometer. A couple bumpy landings. You know, it's been a while. It could be out of whack a little bit. There are other ways to do this. You can do it through your menu on your on-screen display while you're flying. Or not while you're flying, while you're in the ground. I think there are still stick configurations. I'm not sure if they work with our latest versions of Betaflight though. Anyways, your next thing you're going to want to do, assuming you have your port set up to UART1, serial RX turned on, nothing else turned on. It will kick it off if you try to turn other stuff on. Remember, every tab here you have to save when you move to the next one, otherwise it will just reset. We're going configuration, and we're just going to scroll down to where it says receiver. Now I had a FLYSKY in there before, so it is still it was on an S bus, so it's still serial based, and so is the TBS Crossfire. In here, instead of having S bus selected, I scroll down to Crossfire. You hit save and reboot. You're going to want to turn on telemetry. That's if you have a radio capable of handling telemetry coming back. If it handles a module, it should handle telemetry. In my particular case, I'm using a Jumper T16. I have the Crossfire module in it, so it's an external module. To set that up, this has OpenTX on it, so go in here to your first menu, and by default your internal is going to be on, looking like something like that probably. Turn that off, go to external, this will originally be off, turn it to CRSF, which is Crossfire. At that point, we can save and leave. The model is plugged in, and the receiver is powered, flashing green, waiting for pairing. Your controls might vary. On this particular controller, I believe it's the system button. You hold down, it brings up this menu. This one actually was already on here, preloaded with the firmware. So if you update your firmware, that's how I got that on here. If you need instructions on how to do that, leave a comment. Anyways, I'm using the XF Micro TX. And go ahead and hit bind. Okay, so now it's telling us that the actual receiver needs a firmware update. So it's asking us, do you want to do it? Enter or return. I'm going to enter. As you can see, the binding has been set fine. You're also going to want to set your failsafe while you're in here. You can change your failsafe type. Region, your max power. Now 1 watt's quite a bit. I'm not sure. I think it's limited more in Europe. I'm currently in North America. Dynamic power is on. I believe that is, if you're close up, it doesn't need to use the whole 1 watt. 915 megahertz. I believe that's North America. The other option, I'm not sure if it's in here. 915 Australia. 868. So there's a whole bunch of different ones here. But we're going to stick to 915 megahertz. And honestly, where I am, nothing's really operating on that, and no one else is really flying around here. So everything else looks okay. Firmware looks up to date. And I actually looked at the computer and it's currently actually bound. So I'm going to switch over to the computer recording to show you the computer side of it. Your next step after it says it's bound, firmware has been updated, it says everything's connected, you're going to want to go to your receiver tab in your Betaflight. And you're going to want to verify. Now you see I have a little bit of a problem here. Currently, my drone thinks I'm commanding a left-hand roll. And that's because the Crossfire, I believe, is set up. Sorry about the noise. I think I might have kicked a cable and loosened my cheap USB audio input. What I'm talking about here is my channel map there. You can see it says ETAR1234. That is the order in which the channels coming from your transmitter will be mapped to the elevator, the throttle, the aileron, and the roll axis. Or yaw axis. And also channel 1, 2, 3, 4 for the motors. That's just the standard, first 8 for the regular 8 channel. So you can see my drone was actually spinning automatically, and that's because my throttle, it was taking my throttle as roll, and I think it was my throttle as yaw, and my roll is throttle, etc. So what you want to do is the following. So what you want to do is, I am on voiceover still, so you want to select FRSKY/Futaba/high tech, and you'll see that it'll change that channel map to EATR, which is the correct order. You can also actually manually type it in there if you know which ones need to be switched. You can the R if the throttle and the rudder, throttle and elevator need to be changed. You can just switch E and T. Right here I'm speaking about the RSSI channel. I'm not sure if it's actually on auxiliary 8 on this one. I'll have to take a little deeper look. This is a long range drone, but I should be doing some RSSI testing with it, and I might film that on the ground just to get an idea of range and tuning. Also, I'm not sure if I need to tune this, so we'll have to see. Okay. I don't know if y'all can see this, but don't do what I just did. So, I started putting them out together. You can see the time lapse. And I guess I was getting away from myself, making sure everything fit in. Those things need to fit into slots, and make sure you can see the new receivers nice and tucked away from the VTX. Yeah. One thing I did forget to do is like one of the simplest things ever. I did not put this battery cable back up through that hole. So with a drone like this, that's really kind of like 3-inch motors on a 4S, it's very tight tolerances with the props, as you can see. Like there's only a couple millimeters between the propellers on the back and the frames. So yeah, I'm sure glad. Don't do this, okay, guys. If you forget to put this thing back up the hole, and you put it like this, you might fly around fine, because you might not notice, because your cable might be coming out the side, or you might have your battery on the side. But then you might not, and then it'll come down, and it'll chop, 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 and then no power. And yeah, these things are pretty robust. But I don't think you really want to drop it in top of water or someone else. But anyways. Okay, so we're going to plug it in. First of all, don't plug your drones in inside with the props on. The only reason I'm doing this is because I already have this set up and I've already tested it with the props off. As you can see, the light's flashing because it's actually thinking it's lost. Note to FLYWOO, don't put your beepers on the bottom, dude. The battery pack goes on the top. There's nothing there to protect that beeper. That's the first thing that it lands on. Right now, it should be beeping when that light's flashing, but after a couple of hard landings, it doesn't do it. But I guess the flashing will work. I depend a lot on GPS coordinates too. So as long as you have DVR. Yeah, so don't plug it inside. Don't plug it inside. I have a lot of skills flying micros inside. And this is not exactly a micro, but and I have already had this channeled with my controller before, so all the channels are still mapped the same. So I'm not worried about an arm switch being incorrect. Okay. Looks like it's cleared. Alright, I'm just gonna hit the arm switch.
I'm gonna step back.
I'm gonna hit the mode switch. Yeah, please step back. You signed the waiver, right?
You mean our marriage license?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that one.
Where is it? Okay. So anyways, yeah, I can see by the flashes on the flight controller that I'm switching the modes in my mode switch from stabilized to acro. And my only other mode is my that would be this switch. Here's my oh shit switch, which is my fail safe. Which I'm not sure if I can arm after hitting that button actually. Yeah, there we go, it reset. Alright, so we'll try to arm. Okay, that's good. I'll try to just make sure everything was fine.
I'm just gonna back up.
A little bit fine. hitting the little wire there. Pretty good flight. One thing I did notice is I'm probably gonna have to recalibrate the accelerometer. It did seem to be drifting backwards, and there's definitely no wind inside. In conclusion, it looks like the TBS Crossfire conversion works, which is not a surprise because that model actually came with the TBS Crossfire as an option. In the background, you're seeing footage of the Explorer LR. Actually, when I had a brownout situation. This is with the XM Plus FRSKY. Not knocking on them. This is the first time I've had a problem with range with them. Maybe a bad receiver, so or a bad solder. You never know. Could have got damaged. I will take this for a test flight, or if there are any questions specific about this drone. There are a lot of 4-inch endurance, kind of long range drones out there now. I'm seeing even some 6-inch versions now, and even some larger ones too. So if you have any questions about that, I can answer them. I know there's lots of reviews on the Explorer out there already. But if you have any specifics, leave questions in the comments. And if you want more, leave that in the comments too, or subscribe. Thank you.